This is my Roman-style pizza, and as a born and bred Neapolitan, I've just committed a blasphemy by cheating on Neapolitan pizza, and I love it. This crispy, thin crust pizza is like the Italian cuisine of your beloved New York-style pie. It's the perfect blend of authentic Italian technique and American taste preferences. Imagine taking a trip to Rome without leaving your kitchen. Ready to make a pizza that'll make both Italians and Americans drool? Let's dive in and create some crispy, cheesy magic together. Let's start with flour. As a base, we can use a medium strength 00 flour like Polselli, Caputo Pizzeria, 5 Stagioni. You might find wherever you are based. Or generally, flours with W strength between 220 and 280, containing between 11 and 12 grams of proteins per 100 grams. To make the dough tastier and more interesting, as we say in Italy, Naples, più sfiziosa, more delicious, it's recommended to use about 20-30% semolina flour, which contributes to crispiness and gives the pizza more rustic structure and pronounced flavor. There are also flour blends specifically designed for Roman-style pizza, like this Pizza for You mix, but I'm not sure you will find them. Whatever flour you use, remember that the hydration, the water quantity of Roman-style pizza, is very low compared to Neapolitan. We are talking about a percentage between 55 and 60%, which will ensure the typical crispiness of the scrocchiarella, the crispy Roman-style pizza. This recipe will make 9 pizzas. 1 kilo of one of the flours we talked about, 550 milliliters of room temperature water, the famous 55% hydration, 5 grams of fresh yeast or 2 grams of dry yeast, 20 grams of salt, 50 grams of, ideally, extra virgin olive oil, wherever you can find. You can make the dough by hand or use the no-knead technique, but to stick as close as possible to the traditional method, we'll use a stand mixer. Pour all the flour into the mixer bowl and attach the key beater hook, which we'll use to combine the ingredients and make the rough dough. Start the mixer at speed 1 and add the crumbled fresh yeast or the dry one. Run the mixer for a few seconds just to mix the flour and the yeast and start pouring in the water. Unlike with Neapolitan pizza, all the water should be added at once. To be honest, as you can see in the video, I always have a certain reverence when dealing with dough, so I always pour the water carefully, but in this case, it doesn't matter. You can empty all the water immediately. It doesn't change anything. Run the mixer for 2-3 minutes, just enough time for all the flour at the bottom to be picked up by the hook and for the rough dough to form. We need it for such a short time that obviously the gluten hasn't formed yet. Detach the dough from the hook because now it will be replaced with the classic kneading hook. Restart the mixer at speed 1 and after a maximum of 3-4 minutes, you'll start to see a hint of a serious dough. It's still quite rough, but most importantly, we are missing the last 2 ingredients, salt and oil. Restart the mixer, add the salt, and increase the speed to 2. Let it continue kneading until the salt is absorbed. It shouldn't take more than 3-4 minutes. Once the salt is absorbed, you'll need to add the oil and continue kneading until the traces of oil have disappeared from both the dough and the bowl. To facilitate this operation, I increased the mixer speed to 4, which is just above medium speed. Another 3-4 minutes of kneading and we're done. Empty the mixer bowl, and the fact that the bowl is clean and without dough residues tells us everything went according to plan. Now we'll close the dough with a minimum pirlatura dough twist, a technique to shape the dough into a ball. And keep in mind that it's not important to have extremely smooth and silky dough, so during the pirlatura, don't stress the dough too much. Cover the dough with a mixer bowl and let it rest for just 15 minutes. This break will relax the dough and make it more workable when we portion it and make the balls. With the help of the scale, we need to make sure each ball weighs 180 grams. The less the dough ball weighs, the more we'll stretch it and the thinner and crispier the pizza will be. Let's start by dividing the dough in 2 so it will be easier to portion the 2 snakes. Cut and wait until we have 9 doughs of 180 grams each. And now it's time to make the balls. The technique is not different from that of Neapolitan pizza dough balls. I just advise you not to tighten them too much to make the stretching easier. The important thing is that once you have made the ball, the bottom is well closed. This will be crucial when we stretch the dough. So take a flap and bring it towards the center. Continue like this for 2 or 3 or 4 times until you have formed a ball. Now grab the bottom of the bowl and tighten it, twisting the bowl itself. After about half an hour at room temperature, just to make sure that the fermentation has started, I put the containers in the fridge, but not too low where the temperature are closer to 5 degrees Celsius if your fridge is working well. Let's say a temperature around 8 degrees Celsius could be optimal, but I also realize that every fridge can work differently. So leave the dough in the fridge for at least 1 night, but for optimal results, I recommend a classic 24 hours fermentation. Whatever timeline you decide, check the condition of the dough balls. As a reference, they should have doubled in volume like this here. If the doubling happens during the fridge phase, take the dough balls out 30-40 minutes before cooking, just enough time to let them warm up. If, on the other hand, the dough balls have grown little or not at all during the night, consider up to 3-4 hours at room temperature or as long as necessary based on the temperatures in your home to ensure the double in volume. I'll make 2 types of pizzas, the classic margherita, which being more moist will have a limited crunch, and a white pizza with stracciatella cheese, mortadella and arugula to test the true crunch of the scrocchiarella. For the margherita, I've passed some peeled tomatoes that only salted, no oil, and some grated mozzarella that's drier than fresh mozzarella, which I've cut finely, almost into flakes. Extra virgin olive oil and lots of small leaf basil that I grow at home in a cute greenhouse. For cooking, ideally, you'd have a professional oven that reaches 350 degrees Celsius to ensure cooking in 3 minutes. However, we can still get good results with a normal household electric oven. The only thing I recommend buying is a baking stone that will be used to make different types of pizzas in upcoming videos. In case you don't want to buy it, I suggest you watch my video on skillet grill cooking, which works well for crispy Roman pizza as well. Insert the baking stone as high as possible, about 10 centimeters from the grill, and let it preheat for about 30 minutes at max temp, preferably in convection mode, which is one of the secrets behind the crispiness, but no panic if you don't have this mode, whatever other mode can work fine. As for stretching, I'll show you both the classic hand method approved by traditionalists and the rolling pin method, which is within everyone's reach and ensures excellent results even for those who are not experienced. For stretching, you can use semolina, rice flour, or even 00 flour. Personally, I prefer semolina. I make sure that the bowl is covered with flour and start stretching with the use of my fingertips. Unlike a classic Neapolitan pizza, you would start from the crust, which gets completely flattened. During this phase, you need to be careful to leave the center almost intact, as it will prevent the pizza from tearing during stretching. Once stretched sufficiently, I use the palms of my hands to continue stretching. I press both hands on the pizza, leaving the center free while I rotate the disc. I continue until the size of the pizza is equal to or slightly smaller than the peel we'll use for baking. I move the flour from the work surface and toss the pizza gently from one hand to the other to let the excess flour fall off. Only at this point do we move on to the toppings. Well, actually, we are just going to put on the tomato sauce. Don't overdo it, otherwise the moisture caused by too much tomato will risk compromising the crispiness. The tomato sauce goes practically everywhere, even on the edge. I advise you to leave less than a centimeter clean, but only to prevent the sauce from falling on the peel and blocking the pizza from sliding. I sprinkle a little flour on the peel and grabbing the pizza by a small flap, I pull it towards me slightly while pushing the peel underneath. I adjust it to make sure it's round, and since I had a little piece hanging and that pizza got a small hole while I was putting it on a peel, I use it for a quick pat job. The baking stone is hot and ready for cooking. And now for the cooking, which will take about 9 minutes at max temperature compared to the 3 minutes in a professional oven. And let's see what happens. After 8 minutes of cooking, I take the pizza out to finish it. I add the mozzarella, basil, take a look at the bottom to see if everything is okay, and off we go with the second part of the baking, which will just serve to melt the mozzarella and char the edges a bit. And here it is, after just 1 minute. Now you have to excuse me, but as a Neapolitan, I still have to put the basil Neapolitan pizza like, otherwise I feel sick. A drizzle of oil to embellish it, and here is my Roman style round pizza, hopefully scrocchiarella. The bottom is perfectly cooked, and this is the sound of love for pizza. And now let's move on to the white one. For stretching, I do as I did for the previous one, flattening the edges and leaving the center intact. But as soon as it's stretched a little, I continue with the rolling pin. The important thing is to flatten the entire diameter of the pizza evenly, little by little. I move the flour from the work surface and eliminate the excess from the pizza. While making salt bee, I let the mozzarella fall, but realizing it's not necessary, I continue arranging it evenly on the pizza disc. Drizzle of oil, sprinkle flour on the peel, I slide it onto the peel, helping myself with a pinch, and into the oven it goes. And this time, the cooking will continue for all 9 minutes, since we'll finish the pizza cold. And here it is, almost finished. I top the pizza with tufts of stracciatella cheese. I add 4 roses of mortadella, but only because I didn't have any more. I go with arugula to cover part of the stracciatella, shavings of pecorino romano grated at the moment, and a drizzle of oil to complete the preparation. And here is my white Roman style pizza. This is the bottom, and here too, the cooking is right. Here I'm showing off to demonstrate how rigid and crispy it is. And speaking of crispiness, this is the sound I love for pizza. And now, unfortunately, it's time to taste them. Both are top-notch in flavor, and the crispy note definitely adds the extra oomph to the pizza. Between the two, the wet pizza is certainly crispier, a result I could have probably achieved with a margherita if I had used even less tomato and mozzarella. But in any case, it's good even if it's less crispy. Whatever pizza you like, soft or crispy, always love pizza because pizza is joy, especially homemade pizza. Ciao and see you next time!